You're not alone, Ita.
I want to stop hiding. I want to begin again.
Let's begin again. Right here.
Weeks pass. The clouds still hang low over Shillong, but the house feels different now. Not because the pain has disappeared, but because she decided to take a step towards change. She walked into a legal aid clinic, uncertain, afraid, but determined. There, an advocate listened, not just to her words, but to the silent cries beneath them. Together, they fought. In the courtroom, her voice became the loudest echo because when women stand up for themselves, they stand up for each other, and the law, it stood with her.
Who's there? It's you?
Ita,
Yes.
we have won the case, Ita.
We won?
Yes, you're free now.
We won the case?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care, Ita.
They won. Not just a case, but the right to be heard. Now, her home is not a place of silence, it is a place of healing, laughter, and hope. There are drawings on the floor.
Look, Mama, look, look.
Wow. See? Wow, Daman, this is amazing.
Books open on the bed, and no cracked mirror in sight. The curtain still flutters, but this time it flutters in freedom. Kong Ita's story is not just hers, it is the fight of every woman who chooses to walk from the darkness of silence into the light of justice.
Ita chose to speak up. Many women never do. Domestic violence is not a private matter, it's a social crime. And silence should never pay the price for dignity. So, if you or anybody you know needs help, speak because the support is out there.
Break the silence, stop the violence.
Thank you for that incredible, powerful performance, team. The message of breaking the silence truly resonate with our seminar.
Now we move on to the presentation of our esteemed guests. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the absence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Indrajit Dubey, who could not be with us today due to unforeseen circumstances. Nevertheless, we are grateful for his support for the seminar. With that, I would like to kindly request Ma'am Badapyang Dakhar to come forward and present the token of appreciation. We begin by, I would like to call upon Ms. Olivia A.I. Bang, Advocate High Court of Meghalaya. Kindly come on stage. if you could kindly take a seat. Next, I would like to call Dr. Surja Kanta, Assistant Professor, NUJS, Kolkata. Next, I would like to call Dr. Ankita Chakraborty, Assistant Professor, St. Xavier's University, Kolkata. Thank you so much, ma'am Badapyang Dakar.
Now, as we officially begin our discussion, we will have a symbolic inauguration. The watering of plant is a powerful gesture that represents the nurturing of new ideas and growth of understanding. The act is a perfect way of beginning a seminar as we aim to foster meaningful dialogue and lasting changes. With that in mind, I now would like to request all the distinguished guests to kindly come forward near the stage for the watering of plant. Request all the guests to kindly join in with ma'am. Thank you all for participating, and this now begins as an official inauguration for our seminar.
Now, to formally commence today's seminar, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Moshwari Dakhar, Faculty of National Law University, Meghalaya, who will be joining with us virtually to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. So, though we are far, I'm so sorry, but I think I'm audible. First thing,
Yes, ma'am.
am I audible? Yes. So, but then I'm virtually connected always with the university, and thank you everyone for being here. So, respected Chairperson of the State Women Commission, Ma'am Yaman Sien, esteemed Speaker Olivia, Advocate, distinguished academics, Assistant Professor Dr. Surya Kanta and Dr. Ankita, our beloved Batabyang Ma'am, Dr. Isha, dear students, and all our honored guests representing their respective institute. On behalf of the National Law University Meghalaya, it is my privilege and honor to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you in this one-day national seminar on domestic violence in a matrilineal context, investigating the experience of tribal women in Meghalaya. This program is organized under the banner of the Legal Aid Society of National Law University Meghalaya, seek to bring and light and issues that is often overshadowed by the assumption about empowerment of women in a matrilineal society. Despite the perception of equality, many tribal women continue to face domestic violence in silence. With the theme, You Are Not Alone, today's seminar is an effort to acknowledge the life experience and to critically examine the legal and social framework and to collectively imagine pathway for reform and justice. We are truly honored to have with us our ma'am Yaman Siem, who is the chairperson of the State Women Commission, whose work for the right and dignity of the woman inspired us all. We are equally privileged to have with us, guided by the insight of Advocate Olivia, who bring her rich legal expertise in this field. Assistant Professor Surya Kanta, whose academic contribution deepen our understanding of law and society. And Dr. Ankita, whose research and scholarship shed light on the intersection of gender, culture, and justice. I'm also warmly welcoming all our participants, faculty member, research scholars, students, and member of the community who have joined us today. Your presence has signified a shared commitment to justice, equality, and the empowerment of women. Let us take this opportunity not only to engage in a meaningful discussion, but also to commit ourselves to action so that the voice of the women who suffer in silence can be heard, acknowledged, and supported. With these words, I once again extend my heartfelt welcome to all of you. May today's deliberation inspire change and strengthen our collective resolve to ensure that access to justice is universal, inclusive, and compassionate. Kublai Shibun.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umeshwari Dakar, ma'am, for the address. Now, as we
Thank you,
move
Lakshmi.
Now, as we move to the core of our event, it is my great privilege to introduce our first speaker and the brilliant mind behind our research project. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Ankita Chakrabarti, ma'am, the co-principal investigator of our project, the domestic violence in a matrilineal context, investigating the experiences of tribal women in Meghalaya. Before her current role as a faculty member at St. Xavier's University, Kolkata, she was a cherished part of our own community right here at National Law University, Meghalaya. Dr. Chakraborty's work is powerful blend of academic rigor and on-ground activism. Her research spans two crucial areas: women's rights within the Indian criminal justice system and the protection of Indian indigenous and traditional knowledge. In criminal law, she does not critique the system. She also combines her legislative analysis with direct engagement with victims to advocacy for progressive, victim-centric reform that truly make a difference. Beyond this, she is a strong advocate for a special framework to safeguard indigenous knowledge, ensuring that the community, who are its rightful custodians, receive justice and recognition. I welcome you, ma'am, and we look forward to your insights.
Thank you so much, Rishi. Good morning, everyone, respected dignitaries, students, colleagues, and my fellow friends. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come back again to National Law University, Meghalaya, a place which has immense potential and bandwidth, I must say. So I'll be speaking about how the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, which we call shortly as PWDVA, plays out in practice when it comes to a traditional society like Meghalaya. So particularly Meghalaya's matrilineal. Okay, so here through the project we have seen how it fits, the cultural use fits vis-a-vis friction, vis-a-vis the cultural norms that are there in practice in Meghalaya. So our project was led by Dr. Umeshwari Dakar, Dr. Shurjakanto Baladhikari, and myself, along with our students like Bethelda. She's not here with us today. She just submitted her LLM dissertation. We also had Jyoti and Shreyansh with us, and Letria and Mary. So basically, what we tried to find out through the project is that this is a very progressive rights-based law, PWDVA. But when it comes to custom, kinship, or community-based dispute resolution like Dorbar Shnongs, Sen Kenjei, to what extent does the traditional norms fit vis-a-vis friction between statutory protections and customary practices? So when we come to PWDVA, we see that it gives us the civil remedies and a preventive design. And it comes in form of very speedy justice system. It gives us a safety, it gives us compensation, and it gives us order vis-a-vis residence, monetary relief, custody, protection. So, if we break the design of the Domestic Violence Act under three categories, we find that one, the breadth of the relationships. So, what kind of relationships are dealt with under the Domestic Violence Act? What is the scope? What is the nature of the Domestic Violence Act? So, we see marriage like relationships, which means live in relationships as well. And we also see consanguinity, adoption, so an adopted child has all the rights under the Domestic Violence Act vis-a-vis that of a normal child. Okay, so you see the scope and the ambit. It takes into consideration not only formal marriage, but also relationships like marriage. So when it comes to Meghalaya, we see that there are a lot of situations where people do not enter into formal marriage customs, but they start living together, and that is very much acknowledged under the PWVA. Second, we see the breadth of the violence. What type of violences are considered under the Act? So, sexual violence, physical violence, emotional violence, verbal violence, and even economic violence. When we talk about economic violence, so if, say, for example, in Meghalaya, I have seen that many taxi drivers, they have an account in the name of their wives. So that account, so when we are paying via Google Pay, it goes to the wife's accounts. But tomorrow, if the fellow, he freezes those accounts, or if he does not let the wife access those accounts, it leads to economic violence. Or if the fellow or the husband or the live-in partner is not giving access to the resources the woman earns. Say, for example, she has a shop, she earns revenue from there, money from there, but the entire money or the revenue is taken away by the husband. So, this is a form of economic violence which is covered under the Domestic Violence Act. And it also calls for immediate survivor centric relief. So, Domestic Violence Act vis-a-vis is not criminal in nature, it is civil in nature. It calls for interim compensation, it calls for ex parte orders, and it is very, very much victim centric. So I'll straight away come to our study, what we found out in our study. So we had basically covered, the research design and data was that we covered 4 districts of Meghalaya, which constituted of the East Khasi Hills, Jaintia Hills, Ribhoi, and West Khasi Hills. So these are the districts which reported highest number of reported domestic violence cases, not underreported. Highest number of reported domestic violence cases. So this we took into our study. We also covered 87 trial court and KHDC cases, which were coded and decoded vis-a-vis predetermined parameters. So these predetermined parameters were the parties' profiles. It also considered the different forms of violence, the kinds of order that were granted by the court, the timelines, the kind of evidence that came forward, and the ultimate outcome. So in our field work, we also interviewed 160 stakeholders. And in these stakeholders, we had survivors, we had witnesses, magistrate, police, protection officers, one-stop center members, we had State Women's Commission members, DALSA, and local governance. So this local governance means Dorbar Shnongs and Senkanthe. Okay. Plus, we also, when we went to the Dorbar Shnongs and Senkanthe, the method that we followed was focus group discussion, FDGs. So it was basically a mixed method approach, which was doctrinal, ethnographic, as well as qualitative coding. Okay. So, and through the qualitative analysis, we did a reflexive thematic analysis. We did triangulation of the data which came through the different stakeholders, and then what results we came across. So this is important. What we found that matrilineal is not equal to immunity. It does not, despite there is inheritance through the line of the mother, there are, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to power dynamics, it is complicated. So, and it is complicated because it has a colonial hangover. It is not complicated because of the community per se. The laws and the structure has a colonial hangover. We have seen that community authorities play a very important role. But again, these community authorities we are talking about, Dorbar Shnongs, these are male centric. So because these were male centric, we had to come up with Sen Kente, which is women centric in nature, which has women leaders. Second, the relief preferences. What kind of reliefs the survivors are prioritizing? They are prioritizing residence orders and security reliefs, okay, over criminal punishment. So they don't want to drag their husbands in the court. So, and exactly why, PWDVA's civil designs are important here. They don't want to drag their husbands to the court. Third, we found an order utilization gap. So, protection orders that are given by the court, they are often under invoked. Okay, the courts and councils, they focus on maintenance but without safety perimeters, so which leaves the woman again to which exposes and leaves the woman to vulnerable situations. Then there are certain proofs of non-physical violence. So every time a domestic violence does not necessarily mean physical, sexual in nature. So we found a lot of emotional violence, we found economic abuse struggles. When we went into this evidentiary articulation at the trial level, we saw that the magistrates are sometimes very reluctant about the visible harm that is coming through non-physical abuse. Okay, there is institutional friction because sometimes protection officers are under-resourced. There is inconsistency with regards to one-stop centers, integration. There is some weaknesses with regards to interagency coordination. Okay, customary forums, which play a very important role in a matrilineal society like Meghalaya, but it is acting as a double-edged sword. Why? Because as Rangbar Shnong, Dorbar Shnong, Senkyentheis, they can deter the immediate harm, okay, through warnings, through community pressure, through ad hoc maintenance orders. But frequently, this also stirs the survivors away from the formal law mechanism. So, why can't we devise something which takes into account the formal law mechanism with that of our community led initiatives? Fine. Then we saw immense underreporting and silence. So, when it comes to cultural privacy norms and stigma, which was also very beautifully shown in this theater, which was presented by you people. So, we find that despite there's a formal setting, people want to go for community settlements, and people sometimes trade rights for quiet, okay, because they don't want to paint their home reds. This I got from the members only, that they do not want to paint their home reds, because the moment they go to the court they say that our homes are being painted red. So what is the ground reality when it comes to implementation of domestic violence in Meghalaya? The ground reality is that we have to devise a system which works with the community, which works with the Dorbar Shnongs and the Senkyentheis. We cannot always go through the route of the formal criminal justice system or mechanism, because that is actually staring away the victims and survivors. They don't want to go and lodge a complaint or an FIR. They are choosing other recourses, like they would want to go to the one-stop centers. They would want to go to their community, members like Senkenchei and the Dorbar Shnong. So why not devise a system which works together, the criminal justice system along with the community-based resolution methods that we have? Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chakraborty, for your insightful address. Now, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the other co-principal investigator of this project, Dr. Surjakanta Baladikari sir. He currently serves as an assistant professor at the West Bengal University of Judicial Sciences, Kolkata, specializing in the crucial field of victimology and criminology law. This expertise is widely recognized, and he is frequently invited to deliver lectures at prestigious institutes. across the country, including the Central Detective Training Institute and the Regional Institute of Correctional Administration. What makes Dr. Baladikari perspectives particularly unique in his background before he dedicates his career to academia? He practiced in both criminal and civil jurisdiction before the High Court of Calcutta and District Courts of West Bengal. This experience provides him with a practical, a real life understanding of the legal system, which deeply enriches his research. His academic lectures and interests are focused on vital issues such as access to justice, gender justice, and procedural law. Sir, the stage is yours.
Good morning to everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, students, along with ladies and gentlemen. Now, today we are here to speak upon a very important aspect which we have gathered and which we have learned from the wonderfully executed play which was carried out by the students. So, the students have told us that this is a sort of things which happens and it cannot be the practice of lineage which can tell us or have the belief that these kinds of acts are not prevalent. It is also that it was this act which provides civil remedies and not criminal. Because if I have the pleasure to tell you that the preamble of the act talks about the protection of the rights of women which are already guaranteed under the Indian Constitution, which we are all aware of, Article 14, 15 subclause 3, 16, 21, and 39A. Now, this is specifically with reference to the family which they live or which they devote their life or the most of the life which they live. Now, it guarantees also a situation that which should be equal, which should be non-discriminatory, which should be gender sensitive, and that is why we had enacted in 2005 the Protection of Domestic Violence Act. Now, the thing is that Madam has already clarified that it not only operates after the marriage but also in a marriage like situation where two consulting adults are staying together, where they have also accepted in section 2 the definition clause the concept of shared household, that we cannot say that this is the place which belongs to the husband, which cannot be asked or which cannot be given to the wife. But at this juncture, whether the criminal justice system is situated to accept these kind of civil protections, because with the advent of the new laws, we had some 3.43 crore criminal cases pending in India. And these cases are to be covered as if the new laws have not come into force. And my yesterday's research says that the 3.43 crore in 1 year has risen to 3.65 crore, and cases more than 3 years comprises of 65% of the total pendency. Now, at this juncture, is it criminal jurisdiction which we are looking into? Because I am aware that participants are students also. Now, in this situation, putting someone behind the bars or jail cannot give any of the relief which Madam was also trying to speak, or which is envisaged in the Act from section 15, 16, 17, 18 till 20. We can expect from 17 onwards that residence in shared household. 18 is protection orders. What is protection order? Protection order, the aggrieved person is entitled to see that the perpetrator has executed a bond before the magistrate. And if that bond is violated, there is 20,000 fine and an imprisonment up to 1 year. And the police officer, simultaneously on the violation of the bond, can also do what? Can start a case as per the Indian Penal Code, now Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 20. So first we are trying to check whether we are able to get any of the reliefs in form of protection orders, residence orders, monetary relief, custody orders, compensation. If these are not accepted, or if these are not provided, how to be provided? There has to be an application made to the magistrate under section 12, or the same information of the act can be informed to the protection officer, who is under a legal duty, not a pious duty, under a legal duty to start the domestic incidents report. Now, here I draw reference to the present study which was also conducted, that in most of the cases we saw that the DIR's domestic incidents reports were not found. That means what? That the magistrates were only dealing with the respective sections or the protections which the aggrieved asked. But if the protection officer is able to prepare the domestic incidents report, which would tell what? With reference to the Rule 8, it would tell that what kind of relief should be provided to the aggrieved. Whether the aggrieved has children, if a social welfare expert to be also provided to the aggrieved. And section 4 tells that anyone can report the incidents of domestic violence. It need not be only the aggrieved person. And anyone informing about the incidents of domestic violence makes him also free from any kind of legal liability. That's what section 4 has told us. So there is no problem of reporting the cases by the any kind of persons from domestic violence. Now, coming to DIR, domestic incidents report, it tells that the protection officer is under a duty to prepare a safety plan, to provide medical aid safety as per Rule 8, 4, 6 for students, that apart from the act, it is very important to consider the rules of the act. 2006, the DV rules are also there. It tells that how the act will be implemented. And it goes on to cover numerous aspects. For example, the aggrieved is going to a place of work and the perpetrator is stopping her to go to that place of work. That is also covered in the meaning of protection order. Sexual violence, it is not only the sexual act, it is also forcing the aggrieved to cohabit or to entertain to someone else apart from where she has got married. In terms of economic abuse, the DIR should also mention that what is the present cost of living of the family, whether there is children, how many, what are the expenses in regard to schooling. Because there may be a situation where the aggrieved may not be aware herself that what would be the kind of welfare which should be required for the children, which section 15 clarifies that there should be welfare expert. Because due to uh, education or unawareness of the rights, the person may not be aware that what would be the quality of education which is to be provided. And this protection officer are also under the legal duty as per section 33 and 34 of the DV Act of 2005. If they do not carry out or submit the domestic incidents report to the magistrate when section 12 application for any of the protection is filed, they also have a jail of up to 1 year. So they are under pious legal duty to inform the magistrate as well as the police station. It need not be that a simultaneous 498A of IPC case should also be lodged. No, the aggrieved has an option to check for a certain situation that whether this application under 12 under DV Act is working, whereas the police is not under the obligation to register the FIR then and there. if situation escalates, he will definitely, and the aggrieved can also inform the police that she may like to continue with the civil remedies, and if it is not working, the regular criminal jurisdiction can be approached. It is not that simultaneous you are invoking both the jurisdiction, because my personal opinion does not say that putting the person in jail, over criminalizing situations, can give civil remedies or can give a relief to any victim of crime, because the victim of crime would like to know what are the reactions which the criminal justice system gave, what are the different kind of aspects about rehabilitation, about effectiveness, which the society or the environment tries to give. That's what the victim of crime looks. Whether the victim has said that putting in jail can give me justice, no. That's the legislature which is saying. Legislature, we are talking about DV Act, but in serious offences are also saying death is the only solution. Who has said that death is the only solution? Can death provide the victims their due justice? If cases we cannot provide death, then we are not providing any kind of justice. So coming back, this study was in 87 cases which was studied. Most of the facts is that it is about physical or sexual, verbal or emotional abuse which was carried out. Now, section 13 becomes very important over here, which gives the aggrieved the right to access counselor services. But often, magistrates don't provide it unless the aggrieved asks for it. But the same 87 cases have told us where counseling services were provided, the aggrieved and the perpetrator has solved the differences and have gone back to continue their conjugal life. Other facts also revealed it is alcohol abuse, it is the parting ways, it is the unwillingness to maintain the family. These are the other reasons which we saw from the 87 cases which were studied. And interestingly, in 87 cases, 92% were the husbands, because domestic violence can also be committed by the in-laws. So it was the 92%, the persons who were living or the husbands who carried out. The age group, please note, 26 to 40 is the most affected age group, where 42 victims out of 87 cases were found. It was not that the aggrieved working or not working made any much difference. Whether working or not working, domestic violence still prevailed. It was found that in most situations who were daily wage laborers or daily wage workers, they committed most of the crimes, and where they had dependent minors, the incidence of crime, the research highlights, is lesser in case of majors than the dependent minor. In this juncture, I would like to tell you that how do we invoke the criminal law if required, if the situation escalates. But definitely the criminal law does not work without application of section 12, because recently 15 days back Supreme Court have said for 498 cases there are very low conviction, very less cases which has actually completed huge pendency, so their cases to be referred to family welfare committees. It is a sort of arrangement of DV Act now, that there should not be automatic arrest. Rather, the court have said that 2 months there should not be any arrest. There has to be a cooling period. So this time it has to be observed that whether the situation can improve. So the new criminal laws in section 173 has given you the right to inform the police station through electronic means also. But sending the electronic communication is not enough. Within 3 days from the sending of that electronic communication has to reach to the police station, and the physical signature on the FIR has to be made. But another thing is that 3 to 7 years, all kind of offences, there is preliminary inquiry which the police will now conduct. But there also the right of information to the victim whether the preliminary inquiry conducted or not had to be given. because now 193 of your BNSS says that all information about the investigation of the case to be given to the victim as a statutory right within 90 days from the starting of the investigation. But problem is that how will you inform that the central government is still working upon the rules. Interestingly, if we see the NCRB, this skit told us it is a sort of a victimization survey, but the skit told us that these are not kind of a data which we actually have in India. We have the numerical data in terms of NCRB. And NCRB data surprisingly says that 96% of cases in India in 2022 are pending. Out of 446 cases where trial should have been completed, only 23 cases trials are completed. State of Meghalaya reported 0 cases. Now, whether there is no cases, then that's a research question which I would like to leave at that juncture. And this it said in 19 as well as in 2021 it reported 0 cases. Apart from that, we have a concept of victim compensation scheme. See, the compensation which we can avail in terms of section 8 in terms of section 22 is different from victim compensation. Now, if the situation escalates from the DV Act and a regular case is filed, the 498 is also a compensable crime under IPC and BNS now. So the in victim compensation scheme, the local district legal service authority is the nodal agency where the application can be preferred by the aggrieved, and that would be enough to do the medical examination and discuss that what amount of compensation. A 60 days statutory timeline is also there where the application should be disposed of. That is the law behind. Now, India could only spend 14% of the Nirbhaya fund out of 200 crore. That is another reality which we have in the 5 years data. State of Meghalaya, if I can come, 2024 to 2025, 1 year, there were about 412 applications to the State Legal Service Authority containing the DLSs, and there are 715 applications pending. Now, why the applications are pending? Nobody knows, because it is only numbers which we are seeing right now. One study I did in state of West Bengal, there the reason is that there is lack of coordination between the DLSA, the police station, and the awareness that there exists a victim compensation. Now, my closing statement would be that I take a cue from the very skit which actually drew my attention, that we can think about rights, we can think about laws later. First, we have to be aware about the rights, that whether this is a law wrong, whether it is a civil wrong, it is a criminal wrong, and this kind of movements which women have started, because the UN Secretary General study of 2006 is also that says that domestic violence should not be always evitable. There should be policies, awareness which should be created. And this study which is conducted is a study which actually highlights from the 4 districts, the limitation is the 4 districts, that how the DV Act is implemented and how better we did. Lastly, I would like to thank Professor Dubey in absentia. Dr. Rumeshwari, it was her idea to have this one-day seminar. I was little skeptical that how would we can manage time and all. So, and all other faculty members, staff, dignitaries of the dais, on the dais, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Surja, for the in-depth discussion about the legal proceedings involved. You have rightly stated that most are still unaware about women's rights, especially in the domestic violence context, and so the clarity and knowledge was very much needed. Thank you so much, sir. Before we move on to the next speakers, of our seminar today, I would like to formally welcome respected chairperson of the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, Ma'am Yaman MCM. And for that, I would like to request again Ma'am Badapyang Dakhar to kindly felicitate Ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to call you on stage.
Most welcome.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Badapyang. Now we move on to the next speaker of our event. We are very honored to have Advocate Olivia Airpang, Advocate of High Court of Meghalaya as well as Supreme Court. Ms. Olivia Airpang has been practicing law since the year 2008 at the High Court of Meghalaya, its district courts, various tribunals and commissions, both in civil, criminal litigations as well as commercial litigation. Now, in the year 2016, she started her practice before the Supreme Court of India in human rights litigations. She was then impaneled with the state of Meghalaya in the year 2022 at the Supreme Court. She continues to take various pro bono cases representing the poor and marginalized sections of society related to cases of women and child rights, indigenous law, land rights, farmers' rights, fishermen rights, tourism law, and environment law, just to name a few. I'd like to call upon Ms. Olivia to kindly give her speech.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you today? Are we okay? Okay. Of course, Madam Chairperson, guest speakers, faculty members, dear students, and everybody who's here. Of course, the topic today is on domestic violence in matrilineal context. Correct? You've done a lot of preparation for this, and thank you for the skit. The skit was very enlightening. And also, I got a little angry when the husband was shouting. I was thinking I'll get up from there and tell him, sit down. Anyway, good. Thank you so much for that. Now, coming to domestic violence. Is domestic violence the only act that we should refer to now? See, my session is always interactive. I always want to know what my audience feel and what they go through and what they understand. What is their thought process? The reason being is because then it doesn't become a lecture. It becomes more interactive, right? So what do you feel? Do you feel that it's just domestic violence that is involved? Right now you've heard our guest speaker speaking. What do you think is also involved with Domestic Violence Act? Anybody? There's no wrong or right answer. There's just, you're contributing to the thought process. Anybody? Come on. First year students? Come on. Anybody? Just raise up your hand and say. What about the Divorce Act? Are you allowed to divorce if you have a domestic violence case?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you say it then? What about maintenance?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it separate from domestic violence or in the Domestic Violence Act? It's included. What about custody cases? In the Domestic Violence Act or outside the Domestic Violence Act? In or out? One of the grounds. Very good.
Dowry prohibition.
What about
Dowry prohibition.
Raise hand.
Ma'am, Dowry Prohibition Act.
Sorry, I thought the voice was coming from this side. Yes, of course, dowry. But should you die to have a dowry debt?
No.
Can you still register a dowry debt along with Domestic Violence Act? What do you need to do for that? You need an FIR, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without an FIR, can it be a criminal proceeding or a civil proceeding? So your Domestic Violence Act is civil proceeding or criminal proceeding? Confused? Thoroughly confused? Both. It can be civil and criminal.
some aspects of civils.
Good. Very good. So, like Sir said, an FIR needs a cooling period. There are about 90 days of investigation. Then what happened to the victim in 90 days? If she dies, then hospitalization, maintenance. Sorry?
Interim relief is given.
Okay, interim relief, restraining orders. Where is that? Which act provides for that? The DV Act. Do we use it? You say yes, but victims don't use it because they don't know. That's why this awareness program is happening. Correct? So anyway, let's relate to the matrilineal context. Matrilineal context because of Hasi society, because of where we are, the sixth schedule, etc., right? Now, may I ask you a question? Where do we get our rights from?
Constitution.
What if I tell you there's no constitution? What if I tell you there's no state?
Ma'am, natural justice.
Good, very good. But what could you specify more? Natural justice?
Ma'am, your moral obligations towards the society is what from where you derive your rights.
But that's customary then.
Ma'am, then the customary is also included in the moral obligations. It is a civic society which develops all together.
Okay. So, if that is the case, where do you derive your rights? Who will write down these rights for you? Does it need to be written? What do you need in your rights? Basic rights? Louder, please. Basic rights for?
Basic rights and dignity for survival.
Dignity for survivors. Only for survivors.
For survival.
For survival. And one more thing. Survival and? Okay. If you are born as a human or you have life, then you have?
Rights.
You have rights. You have rights. Can a foreigner enforce their rights here?
No.
Says who? What does the Article 21 says?
Yes, ma'am, they can.
They can. Because why? You can never take away fundamental. So everybody has. You need not have a constitution to have your fundamental rights. These are your natural rights. It cannot be taken away. Right to life. Right to equality. Okay? These are the biggest rights. You go anywhere in this world, it cannot be taken away. Why? That's why you have your UN, that's why you have your various policies and organizations, right? That is why you have your domestic violence cases. Acts, sorry, not cases, I'm sorry. It is derived from where? Can you minus fundamental rights from any act?
No.
Any act. What about commercial cases? Food for thought? Think about it. Okay? There can never be any law without fundamental rights or constitutional rights. Yes? So, coming back, matrilineage. Customary laws. Can customary laws take away your constitutional rights? Or your natural rights? No. The Darbar Shinong, rule of Darbar Shinong, Darbar Singhanthai is very much welcome. But can they take away your constitutional rights? Can they take away your rights to report in the police? Can they take away your rights to separate? So what is social stigmatization then? What is pressure? Family pressure. Can they take away your rights? No. Then come your moral rights, isn't it? So that's the difference between moral rights and also constitutional rights. Okay? You can be morally right, but constitutionally very wrong. Right? So clear concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Cleared?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's move on, sorry. Okay, so when we talk about the DV Act, I should say that it's a little complicated. Sometimes you say it's criminal, sometimes you say it's civil. I do not know also. I'm also still finding out. Right? Because sometimes when you back it up with an FIR, then you have your protection officer doing what? Nothing or everything? Can you call your protection officer in the middle of the night and say, help me? Don't have the answer? Do you know that in a domestic violence act you're assigned a protection officer? Yes. So can you call your protection officer if something happens to you? Is that okay? I'll give you an example. In domestic violence cases where you do file for custody, it is your protection officer that needs to go with you when you get the custody of your children to take the children. But he cannot force it. He cannot take it. He cannot take the children forcefully. Okay? Yes? So that there are various disadvantages of the Domestic Violence Act. Okay? You keep on it's a procedural law. Okay? Yes? Okay. So we've spoken about customs, constitutional rights, civil remedies, FIR, protection officers, now relationships, now the degrees of relationship in a Domestic Violence Act. Like I think ma'am said, right? And you also said, right, sir, that domestic violence you need not be in a formal relationship, that is a marriage. Even intimate partner violence is there. Are you aware of this? Are you aware of this? You need not be a living in relationship. You can also have a relationship which is violent, and you can report under Domestic Violence Act. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of relationships do happen which are informal and intimate, and violence can take place. And what happened? Who do you report to? Can the police officer say no? Can he turn you down? And also domestic violence is also gender sensitive for a male as well as for a female. Even males can report. Are you aware of this? Yes? So violence can be physical, mental, economical, financial, and emotional. Yes? So what if you report an emotional violence? What will happen? Will he register the case? Yes. True. He has to register. Okay? Something like, for example, if you have a partner, right? An intimate partner who tells you, why are you doing law? I don't like law. You shouldn't go and, study law. Is that also abuse? Not really, not per se, but what if it gets really, really difficult for you? Then what? You have the choice. Okay? You need not wait for it to get physical. There are no degrees of violence. There are no degrees of consent. Yes? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Because if you wait for it to get really, which usually what happens with victims is that they wait for it to get really bad to report. They don't address the issue in the beginning, like counseling in the beginning, right? So what about having support persons in these relationships? Even in court, you're allowed to have a support person to come. Okay? Okay? So you should always talk about these things. When you need counseling, please seek for counseling. There are various places where you also have anonymous counseling where they don't reveal where you come for counseling. Yes?
Yes.
You're aware of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we come to marital rape. Is marital rape a domestic violence? Are you aware of marital rape?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you report marital rape and domestic violence?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but is it punishable?
Yes.
It can be in DV Act. It is criminal in a DV Act. Okay? Do you know what marital rape is?
Yes, ma'am.
You need not be married for marital rape. Now, when we come to, there's a very peculiar case that I need to share and give you an example about in domestic violence cases. Have you heard about abandoned brides? Abandoned brides? Have you heard about this? There are about 50,000 abandoned brides in India. Maybe more, I don't know. So, abandoned brides are brides who are married to Indian citizens who have become NRIs or OCIs and they live abroad. So, there is a domestic violence. They only marry because of dowry or to dupe them of their money or property. And then once they're married, you cannot trace the perpetrator because he's gone abroad. And you cannot fight because it is a domestic violence cases, you cannot go into protocol and call them back. So that's the biggest domestic violence case which you should look into and read about. These are known as abandoned brides. Okay, there's a PIL in Supreme Court which is also pending. And are you aware of the PIL or domestic violence in Supreme Court? Look it up. There's a lot of debate about what domestic violence is, what is it related to compensation, FIRs. Yes? Okay. Now we come to custody. Custody of children. Custody of children in a domestic violence case. What do we do in custody cases? It's always the woman that files, or it's the man that files, or the husband that files, or the father. Either of the parents can do it. But in most cases, it's the woman who's fighting from the husband. Now, mostly I have seen in my experience that it boils down to the father fighting for custody just to no, mostly in domestic violence cases, I am not against fathers having the custody of children, but they do that because just to get that upper hand in most cases. But usually, who suffers here in domestic violence cases? I mean, custody cases, children. Ultimately, if it's a minor, of course, the mother should get the first right. Till how old? Till 18. But however, in most cases, children are abandoned. Usually custody cases are dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. There's shared custody to a certain point where the child gets so fed up. Suddenly when you reach 18, they just want to be on their own. Yes, they drag on till the age of 18. They neither with the mother, neither with the father. Their lives go on all that way. Usually this is what happened in custody case. I am not saying it's bad, but I'm saying that something needs to be done in custody cases. Now, reported number of domestic cases. Are you aware of one-stop centers? That whenever there is a domestic violence case that is reported in any of the police stations, they need to be referred to one-stop centers. And what happened in one-stop centers? They usually refer them to mediation. I do not know why. Despite the fact that there's a lot of physical abuse of a woman or a man. So I do not know about the implementation of Domestic Violence Act. I do know that the ground reality is really bad. It's really bad. So in the one-stop centers, what do? Do they collect the evidence? Do they keep the evidence? No, they ask you to mediation. They ask the man and the woman to sign to a certain some sort of an agreement. Okay? And then even if the protection officer is available there, hardly anything has been done. Even if she calls a protection officer, I don't think he will. I mean, now maybe there is a little bit of change, but then there was not. And then we also have mediation centers where all divorce cases, all maintenance cases, all domestic violence cases have been sent to mediation center. Are you aware of this? Ultimately, it boils down to negotiating the amount for the woman. Right? Are you aware that most of 90% of the domestic violence cases go on payment of monetary, financial, should I say support? So those are the demerits of domestic violence cases. We also have the role of the Women's Commission and CWC. The role of the Women's Commission is that Women's Commission cannot take up these cases. They can only support the victim. They cannot take sides, right? They can only support the victim, such as maybe refer the victim to or the survivor to shelter homes. Now, in Shillong, in Meghalaya, we still have very less shelter homes for women to go to, particularly when they are abandoned in the middle of the night. And sometimes it happens that when we call protection officers or we call people, there is no response. Okay? Then I'm just saying that how do we address these issues? This is what I'm sharing with you, what we have experienced. Then the other thing that we do face difficulty in domestic violence cases is electronic evidence. Usually electronic evidence is never admitted in some of the courtrooms in Meghalaya, and I don't know why. You give them a pen drive of, the domestic violence that took place. No, they don't want to see. They don't admit it in evidence. Actually, the Act says you have to, right? Under Evidence Act, you can submit electronic evidence. Then you have the role of the Dharma. We've already spoken about the role of Dharmarashanong and Sankanthay because they can only mediate to a certain point. And the sad part is that when it begins in the initial stages, there's no counseling, so it gets really bad that the woman gets. Becomes very bad that even physical abuse is not something that it is so bad that sometimes a woman is hospitalized. You've seen cases that they got burned, right? And they're already in the hospital. You've seen cases where she was hanged by what? A doorknob? Can you hang yourself in a doorknob? What's the height? It's hardly 3 feet, right? So can you hang yourself? That is a dowry case. But these cases go nowhere. Legal aid. The role of legal aid advocates. Can they be a little bit more aggressive? Is there too many cases that they're handling that they cannot be a little aggressive to, have you seen a legal aid advocate sitting with the victim and taking time? Then why? I'm just putting it out there. Then you have cooling period, like they say. What is cooling period and how long is cooling period? What is investigation period and how long is investigation period? 90 days? What if investigation is not over in 90 days? Then what do we do?
The police is asked for, they can ask for extension, proper explanation, and they can be extended to 30 minutes.
But then what happens to the victim in 90 days? In cooling off period, what happens to the victim? Male or female? How do they live their lives? What if they're financially not well off? What happens? Can they still stay in shelter homes beyond 90 days period? Because investigation is happening. I mean, these are the things that we need to discuss and look into. I'm just putting it out there so you can see how Domestic Violence Act can be implemented in such areas. It will not tell you exactly, but how can you utilize it? Yes? Also, compensation. Now, sir was saying that you can ask for compensation from victim compensation. Only if you have an FIR, only if you have medical reports. But you can't apply for victim compensation unless you have these things. And how bad the amount is victim compensation, particularly for children. Okay, when it comes to POXO cases, forget domestic violence. How bad it is. They hardly get 14,000, yeah, for a victim, or pay off her school fees. Victim compensation amount is so low in Meghalaya that I cannot tell you. I mean, there is no survey being done whether how much the child needs, how much the victim needs, how much the survivor needs, and there's no survivor under Domestic Violence Act that has applied for victim compensation till date. Not even the deaths that happened in civil hospital recently. Because what people say, mostly in matrilineal context, is that we've lost the life. Why should we want the blood money? Keep it. So sad. So sad. Anyway. Yes. Can we file writ petitions? If there's a domestic violence act or, crime that where the courts have delayed, or whether there's certain discrepancies in the procedure. What do you say?
Yes, ma'am.
We can?
Yes, ma'am.
So it'll be a criminal writ or civil writ? We don't know. Okay. So those are food for thought for everybody, right? There's a lot to think about. Of course, we can talk about the act and how great it is, glorify the act. But I think, to be honest with you, a lot needs to be done. For me, I think it's a toothless act. Because it has all these provisions and all that. But when it comes to implementation, it got very difficult. I think it's the same for all acts, isn't it? Anyway, any questions for me, please? Anybody would like to ask me anything? What would you do? What is the first, after all these discussions about domestic violence, what would you do? What is the first thing you would like to address? Do you know about ringing the doorbell when there's a violence? Anybody's aware of this? Okay, so if there's ever a fight between anybody, you need to distract them from the fight, right? But you can't get in between the fight, right? Because you have to protect yourself. So what should you do? Huh? Yeah, you ring the bell, you ring the doorbell. Because people will get, they change there. How do you distract the person from that violence? Particularly intimate partner violence. Pull them apart. They'll get more aggressive. You should find out ways how to immediately address the situation. What is your role? How do you play? How do you bring about change? And do you know that domestic violence in high profile cases is always monetary? But what about domestic violence cases for people who are really poor? Then what? Matrilineal society, matrilineal, oh, the woman gets 3, 4, 5, 6 husbands. Why? You think she really wants 5, 6, 7 husbands? Because she can't afford herself. She cannot be economically. She has so many kids. And it repeats itself. It's a pattern. Anyway.
Same thing I missed out.
Anything else for anybody who would like to contribute to anything that I said or comment? Yes, please.
So, ma'am, I was going through one of my seniors' dissertation who did her research in this field itself. So, in the initial pages, it was mentioned that the males here they are encouraged to like have different wives and children from all those wives, and it is seen as a superiority thing in the men. So, don't you think these kinds of things should be first discouraged by the society?
I think first of all that's the wrong thing to say, because no family would ever encourage their son to have 5 wives, 6 wives, 7 wives. That is not true. Okay, for a proper, I mean, it's the same. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Even men wouldn't want to take this financial. I don't think it's the same question for every society, not just matrilineal society. It's everywhere. You go anywhere. Domestic violence is like that. And it's not, see, I'll tell you something honestly, okay? If we can start respecting women on gender equality, then maybe you won't have that much domestic violence. Maybe you won't have that much crime. First, we begin with the basic concept of respect. Yes? If the basic concept can be there of respecting each other, then you don't have to get into the debate of women's rights, men's rights, right? So the concept of saying that, oh, why is it that in our society no, we do not allow. Nobody allows it in any society. It's just something that we discuss because we need to see it in a different light. Because I'll tell you why. When it comes to marriage or intimate partner relationship, nobody can hold you to force you to stay in that relationship. Right? It's very emotional, it's very sensitive. Okay? You cannot hold a person to be in a relationship. If a person wants to leave, please let them go. Don't hold them. Right? You don't owe that person. Yes? Simple as that. I understand there are other complicated issues about money and custody and things like that, but it can be resolved. Yes?
Thank you, ma'am.
Please.
Ma'am, like respects come from power or the inheritance rights. So in matrilineal society, women get most of the rights. So if even in matrilineal society the women are not respected or the mutual respect is not there, how can we change it in patrilineal?
Okay. So a lot of people are again, this is just a myth. Okay, that is not true. Because in a true Khasi family, the men has their own role and the women have their own. So if it's a matrilineal society, then every household has an uncle because he belongs to the clan, right? And the daughter, okay, the concept of khaddo is because she's the custodian. She's not the sole heir. Okay, so yes, property is divided. It's not always because you don't respect men. It's not like that. It is divided. They get because they, at one point of time, we had clan land, so everybody used to toil on the clan land, right? So men played the role of being the uncle because when we have our ceremonies, it's our uncle and not a father because the father doesn't belong from our clan. So it's about clanship, right? That's why matrilineal. So we always revert back to the clan. So we say blood, right? So clan is blood. So it's not like that we do not respect. So every uncle for every household. So every father is also an uncle. Yes? So they play their role. Of course, with westernization and Christianity and all that coming in, it's not a bad thing. But still, you'll see in most households, the respect is there. Even for the father, he has his role. Even for the uncle has his role. Father has to maintain the family. Uncle has to protect the family. Yes? So that's the role. So saying that there's no respect, there's no role, it's not true. The thing is, we are always finding an excuse. Dig deeper. You will find it. Yes? Every society, please sit down. Every society, every community have this certain, your family has certain values. It starts from the family. The same way with matrilineal system. The reason why we say woman is because we believe that the blood comes from the mother, right? And white blood corpuscle comes from the father, right? And that's how it is that the woman takes the mother's name of blood. Yes? Kasnaam guksud. Yes? Anything else? So I don't think in any society did you say that we do not respect women. There is. There is. But it's just that we need to dig a little deeper. I mean, of course, if you say so, then we have the misconception of saying that, oh, woman, Indian woman, like when I say Indian, of course we're all Indian, I'm talking about from the plains, right? People from the plains. When you get married and then you belong to your husband's family because you change your surname and things like that. But here it's a little different. But even there you're respected. You're the mother of the house. There's certain, under the Succession Act, females do have their, rights to property, isn't it? Isn't it? So it's not always a male-dominated, state. You have to dig deeper. You get your rights there. It's just that how we have practiced, we have allowed it to get here. Right? This concept of domestic violence didn't emerge now in 2025. You mean to say there was no domestic violence then, in the beginning? Yeah? There were no dowry deaths. We formalized it. We enacted a law against it. Why? And then you go back to your roots saying that, oh, because we don't respect this person, then the fault lies at whom? Got it? Any more questions, please? Yes, please.
Sorry, ma'am.
I
to
know we time
interrupt.
off. Somebody else.
Yeah, we'll actually have planned out a question answer round. So you can keep your questions. We'll circulate the mic accordingly. And then all of you, whatever queries you have, you can pose the questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the interactive round. And I'm sorry if I've taken too much time, but that was nice to hear your thought process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Advocate Ma'am Olivia, for the interactive session and for clearing up the very concept of domestic violence, for digging deeper within the legal field as well as beyond, sharing with us your actual experiences with some of these women and sharing their lived experiences of domestic violence survivors, and as well as highlighting the position of other victims involved as well, which are children. Thank you so much, Ma'am Olivia. Now, lastly, but definitely not the least, we have our respected chairperson of the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, Shrimati Yamans Aim. She is the distinguished chairperson of the Women Commission, a role she has assumed on June 19th, 2024. Her appointment highlights profound expertise in which the government has recognized her vast experience in the field of protection of children and women's rights. Previously, Srimati's Aim chaired the Meghalaya State Commission for Protection of Child Rights from September to March 2024. There, she has significantly strengthened child protection, launching a YouTube channel for outreach and conducting school awareness programs. She's also a retired associate professor and former head of sociology at St. Edmund's College, Shillong. Her academic background informs her advocacy. At the Women's Commission, she maintains a proactive stance against gender based violence, condemning femicide, monitoring incidents, and advocating for zero tolerance. Her career reflects an unwavering commitment to fostering a just and equitable society for children and women in Meghalaya. Ma'am's aim, I would like to call.
Thank you for your kind words, Anisha. You know, I always like to stand here because we are small, we can't be seen too much. But I can tell you, I will have a voice not to match my size. Anyway, is it still morning? Anyway, good day to all of you. At the outset, I'd like to thank Professor Dubey and the organizers, I think Dr. Dakhar, or is it Dr. Dakhar, and all her colleagues, faculty over here. And can you hear me at the back? Yeah? Somebody's raising, yeah. And all the wonderful, wonderful students over here, wonderful people over here. Now it has solved my problem a little bit because 3 of them are distinguished panelists, have already done with laws and whatever. And I'm not here to do that, okay? Since the topic, actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't know it was a panel. I thought it was a proper seminar with like a paper. So it helped me to write down some points, okay? Because I thought it was like a paper kind of thing. Never mind. If I'm too long, somebody stop me, please. You know, as teachers, we tend to speak a lot. But I do hope that some reflections, maybe of a different kind, you can take away with you, because I know that the students come from various backgrounds and so on, and most of you are not from these parts. Even though you've read, maybe you'll have a few more insights. I do hope that you'll take away some insights and thoughts from something that I'd just like to share. So, so I'll try to keep to, to cut down the time that is allotted, I hope, right? Our topic is domestic violence in matrilineal context. I'm going to leave out the act part. Oh, that has saved me a lot. Okay, so I don't, and all of you, like, you are well versed in that. I'm just going to kind of introduce a little bit, an understanding of matrilineal society. I know that most of you have read a little bit, but let me give you a few more stuff maybe to chew on, okay? And the first thing is I'd like to say is that I'll like to read actually the first part just to set the tone, okay? Forget it, I wouldn't read it. I'll just say it straight. As you are aware that there are very few matrilineal societies left on this planet, right? There was a point of time when in history you hear about matriarchy, and yes, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and many places, even in the States also, there have been instances, pointing out that there were matriarchy, and we'll see the difference with matrilineal, patrilineal, and so on in a while. But for the time being, all we want to state is that the only, you can say the characteristics that can be properly identified, in its more, in a more, more holistic, I wouldn't say holistic, but in a way that can clearly give an understanding what matrilineal is found actually in the Northeast. As you know, the Kasigarus and Jaintias. There were the Nayars, as you've probably heard also, but in their transitioning, Nambudri Brahmins are marrying into the Nayar matrilineal woman and so on and so forth. So there have been changes. So we can take a look at the Northeast and see matrilineal in that context. Now, to differentiate, as we said, that there are very few matriarchies. There are no matriarchy as such, though there are traces of it in other parts of the world. But let us distinguish this first. Patriarchy and matrilineal. Why don't we say matriarchy, but we say matrilineal? And this is a term which people interchangeably use. You know, you use the word matriarchy. Please don't do that. I mean, not in the context of the Northeast, okay? Because let me point out the difference. When we talk about patriarchy, we talk in, let's take only three things: descent, right, and lineage, that is name, property, and authority or decision making. It's in one linear line, and that is in the hands of the paternal males. Simple. And in matrilineal, we have the name, we have the property transmitted through females, but the authority and decision making is in the hands of the maternal males. So the only difference is paternal males and maternal males. Maternal males is the matrikin, the maternal uncle, as the mama or whoever you want to call them. But that is something that has to be very clear. That idea of the fact that there is no matriarchy, that the decision making is in the only difference between patriarchy and matrilineal is actually that decision making and authority. Paternal males and maternal males. I think if that is clear, we can go ahead, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then, let's take a look at some of the, the point. I mean, there's some things that we need to discuss it. I'm going to refer to this. As teachers, we tend to kind of go overboard and then we say, oh, I didn't mention that point and that point. So that's why this is keeping me on track. So let's see what is there. Yeah. Okay. Don't worry. I haven't started as yet. Yeah, so this is something actually just to mention. The fact that you see this, a lot of people, scholars included, have observed this, that it is the patrilineal, the paternal and the maternal males that are involved in matrilineal, that has caused them to question the fact that, that there is a principle of patriarchy in matrilineal. That is something for us to ponder about. In fact, it is so. Okay. Now let us just, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. I want us to understand one thing. When we talk about, and I'll just use, I'm not going to really touch on the Garo and the Jaintia societies, but just in passing. I'll just kind of specifically talk about the Khasi society because it's a case study. The first thing that we need to understand is that the whole fabric of Khasi society actually rests on two tenets, okay? Two principles. One is katib breu, katib lay. I think Madam over here also would know. Katib breu, katib lay. To know others, people, and to know God. The word know is not so much knowledge. I mean, not so much about knowing people, but it's about understanding the relation, the role, understanding the meaning of interacting with other people as well as with God. It's a relationship. Okay? If it's a dance thing, we'll all dance. So katib, I'll go slow, okay? Katib breu, katib lay. So this is a moral tenet also. It's a principle. It's a structural thing. And this is one of the pillars that is built up or has held up the fabric of the Khasi structure. Okay? So when we talk about that, why I want to mention this, because later on we want to see what has happened. Where is the roots of violence embedded? Is it in these structural things, on the value system, and so on? So please keep that in mind. I'm not just talking about Khasi society, but I'm also asking you to question, to kind of ponder and look for these nuances in relationships, in the value system, and the norms. Whether there are these embedded kind of roots which create and generate violence. So this is something like as students, we have to develop our critical thinking, not just read, like this is Khasi society, this is Garo society, this is whatever other society. But it is important for us to develop that critical way of looking to read between the lines, as they say. So that is one of the tenets. Then the second tenet, which is very, very key in understanding domestic violence or whatever over here, I feel that if one could really do a little bit more research on that, it would be helpful. And that is the tenet that katip briu, katip is one, and katip kur, katip kha. Okay? Tip is a loaded word. With tip means to know, to understand, right? Tip kur, tip kha. Kur is clan, as Madam had pointed out. It's a the consanguines, right? The clan, the kur, and I'll go a little bit deeper on that. And the ka. The ka is a paternal, the patrician, the paternal side. Okay, so the kinship is a very closely woven kind of kinship system. So the whole thing is to understand the importance of kinship. That this is almost like a sacred domain. To understand, to know the roles, the obligations, the expectations that come from being a kinsman, both as a consanguine, that means a clan, as well as an affine and adopted, and so on. So this is important. As I said, I'm going to go very slow on this so that we understand that concept. And you will see, and when we look at that, the way that Kasi's, Garus and Jaintias hold it sacred, this domain of kinship, which is the most closely knit kind of, organized, like family, okay, which is the most important thing. How is it that in that very setting, when it is considered as almost sacred, that such violence exists when we look at the families today? This is a question that we need to raise. So something must have happened, or there's something that is inbred in there. Now, apart from that, I want us to understand one thing also. When we talk about the clan, we also refer to this the kpo. The kpo, as some of you are Khasis, you'd understand. The location is in the stomach, but actually it means the womb, right? The womb holds the seed. The seed is very important. And the clan would like to perpetuate that, like always to hold the seed, to nurture the seed, to keep alive the seed from generation to generation. That is why marriage is so important, as everywhere, right? But in this context, the kpo also denotes a kind of the lineage group, which is traced to an ancestral mother, to a mother. It can go back generations. In fact, I don't think we can trace more than 4 or 5 generations in Kasi society. I'm trying to do that, but then we don't have much of written records, so that is sad. But still, we can trace that. So the kpo is important. So the grandmother, we can say grandmother. That means the mother's mother's mother. Depends on how many generations. That kpo is important. It holds the group together. But then it can get diversified because in course of time, people migrate. But the kpo, the recognition, the reckoning of relationship. He is a kur. He is a clansman. He's a kin from the father's side, the mother's side. That is so important. So one of the reasons is because there are these laws of exogamy. There are boundaries, like within the clan, there's clan exogamy, so you cannot marry within the clan. So even if you go to other, migrate to other villages and so on, in this case to urban areas, a lot of people make sure that these lines, these demarcation of lines where you can marry, somebody from the same clan or affiliated clans, that is so key. The incest taboo is a universal thing. So here, incest, in terms of clan incest, also is very, very important. Why I mention that also is because the fact that in POXO we see that, no? The father, the maternal uncle, why do we see so many cases of POXO also, right? And incest in the family, which is not spoken of. We just kind of hide it, under the carpet. Because there's honor, there's stigma, there's shame, so many things involved over there, right? So these are the nuances in a Khasi matrilineal structure or in a matrilineal structure as such. Of course, in the case of the Garos, we refer to them as the Maharis. The Maharis also is it consists of both the matrikin as well as a patrikin, right? And in the case of Kasis and Jaintias, it's the maternal uncle who's important, and who controls or manages the property. But in the case of the Garos, it is also the husband, because he is a kinsman of sort of the father. That you need to just read up a little bit on that. But the point is that we're trying to understand the importance of the clan, the sacredness of family, and yet, why is it that so much violence today? That is a question that we need to ask. Regarding the Khaddo, somebody had raised a question about the Khaddo. Again, Madam already debunked that myth that the Khaddo, owns a property and so on. But in reality, we want to question this also. We talk that the property is transmitted through the females, that is a Khaddo, and she's very lucky and so on. But let me just clarify on this. How many people have property? Let's raise that question. How many people? All Khaddos have property? Not in your life. They would have loved it, But the thing is that there are very few families, not few, in the sense that who have that property. In today's world, we see a lot of Khaddo. They have that role, responsibilities, expectations are there, but they do not have the means. So they might be wage laborers, and they might live in a rented house, but they're still obligated to look after their parents or their maternal uncle, their siblings, and so on, because that is the customary expectations, right? But they don't have the resources. So I'm happy that I'm not a Khaddo, believe you me, because you need that resources. So regarding that also, property, when we talk in the War area, they give a distribution to both males and females. But in the most part, if the family has a lot of property, it's given to the other siblings, and they're called Nongmi Ying. The eldest siblings are called the Nongmi Ying. That means they move out the house. So a lot of people think that when you marry into the Khasi society, you have to live with the females, right? But not always, because most of the time it's only the Khaddo, right? Because she has to stay with the mother and look after. She's supposed to leave the house last, so that's why. But the other Nongmi Ying, that means they go out and set up their own establishments. But today you can see the change that many Khaddos, they follow their husband. He might be an IAS officer, he might be transferred somewhere, whatever. So it can be one of the middle siblings who stay with the family. So these are changes also which we will talk about. But I think you get a sense, one, of the importance of kinship and family, right? Now, what has happened to that fabric? Why is it kind of seems to be eroding and kind of unraveling at the seams? One has to ask that question, right? Another important thing first, let me just point out, is the importance of the Kinyi. The Kinyi is the maternal uncle, right? Or maternal uncles, for that matter. They are the ones who have a very close affinity to their family, their natal family, because number one, they help to manage and control the property, and nobody can sell that property without their the consent. Thank you. And also regarding marriage, they are the Xing. That means they go and negotiate during engagement. Today, one of my nephews is getting engaged. So all the maternal uncles are out there, to talk business. But usually, and we girls are not invited. It's only the males, right? So that is one. But more that still remains even today, even after people have converted to Christianity. But in marriage, where the proper ritual, the ritual of marriage, it is the father who kind of leads the bride. So there have been these changes. But the nominal, the ritualistic kind of way we keep, in the sense that maternal uncles are, always consulted for any major decision. But we have to keep in mind, again, because of lack of time, I'm just going back and forth. But today, what is happening is that there are these factors of change that are making inroads into the fabric of our matrilineal societies and all that, urbanization, westernization, Christianity, and then change in beliefs, change in norms, change of, the communication system, and so on and so forth. So a lot of factors have kind of made inroads. And there have been, especially this rural urban migration. And so what happens is that there was frequency of contact in the old traditional societies where the maternal uncle can go to his nieces, to his sister's home, and he will ask, "What are you doing? You kids have been good." They can keep track, and therefore, when there's more frequency of interaction, there will be more influence, as you're aware, right? But what is happening is that now the maternal uncle have been transferred or have migrated or have gone to other villages or to the towns or to Shillong or whatever. So you can see the frequency of contact is no longer there. So the influence is also less, right? So the father's always been referred to as Ukpa Bala Bayai. He bears the brunt, the heat of the day. So now increasingly he is taking the role of the maternal uncle in some ways, the decision making, the day-to-day matters. Also, there have been these expanding areas, like for example, education, which was not there before. So now the father can take these decisions, in the area of education, even marriage, occupation, careers, in that way. So increasingly, these roles are shifting, and there's a decreasing role of the maternal uncle. So this is something that is a reality, and that's why you see there's this cohesiveness, and the society seems to be kind of in question. And not only that, we see why is it that even maternal uncles can commit such certain crimes like POXO with impunity. So these are questions they are based on the structural kind of changes that are happening, not so much only on the fact that a person is bad or whatever. We have to see that whether they have more license, whether there are these forms of social control, are they as strong as they do they hold families together? So the accountabilities, the responsibilities, and sometimes is also not knowing. Yeah, there's so many factors, as I said. I don't want to get there, but I hope you get a sense of that, right? And this interplay with changes also with tradition. And so what is happening over here is that we see the males the role of the maternal uncle, the role of the father. There's this adjusting that is there, also because of patriarchal values in Christianity and the outside influence of patriarchal cultures. That is also changing the value system and mindsets of people also, because you have to interact in a larger world, right? And the markets is not only where the women are, but the men are engaged in businesses, in the offices, in professions, and so on and so forth, right? So they do imbibe those values also. This is something that, as I said, the patriarchal kind of principles or the value system has made inroads in most of the matrilineal societies also. That is something for us to also to consider, right? Um, Now, another thing that I wanted to point out in the traditional tribal societies and in Khasi society in particular, we see that there's these reinforcing kind of practices. In the language, for instance, language is very, very key. Whether there's violence in the language, by the way, that's very important. In today's world, you see all the four-letter words and so on. So much of violence is there, right? So we want to question and investigate into the kind of languages, the kind of words, the kind of tone, the kind of threats, the kind of thing that is currently and frequently used in our language system, including the matrilineal societies, including the Khasi society, right? So why do I say that again? I will just come to that in a moment. Also, the fact that there are these songs, earlier songs, proverbs, adages, that not only strengthen the matrilineal societies, but they also very subtly bring in this superiority, the inequalities that are there perceived in the worldview. When you look at, for example, I'll give you two examples. One is among the Khasis, we say Kakantei Shinrang Khat Arbor. Shinrang Khat Arbor, Kakantei Shibor. Let's take a look at that. Kantei Shibor, that means literal translation is like one power, and the man has 12, right? So that in itself is a linguistic kind of thing, which creates, which kind of reveals the perceived inequality that should exist. Actually, you are nothing, you are just one skill. Now bor has it's embedded in that word is a lot of things. That means that the man is capable of a lot of things. You get me? A man is able to do more. By the way, and I see this in patriarchal cultures also, when you ask people like, why do violence exist? And one of the things they use is physical strength. Of course, if you bring a WWF woman, she can beat a number of you guys over here. But the point is that, physical strength is a big deal. I think it comes from our hunting days, right? So the point is that I am superior. And this is where a lot of things, even in conflict in families, you see the physical strength is exerted. And it's also a mindset. Like, I'm physically, I tell you, there have been women who have bashed up their husbands. In fact, some people say, why don't we have a men's commission now? And that goes even for non-matrilineal societies, right? Even in mainland India, they have called it for HEP. That's besides the point. Now, the coming back to this, bor. Bor indicates strength, it indicates power, right? So the man has more power than the woman. As simple as that. And you can see this also manifestation when you look at the door barshnong, where the rang barshnong, where the women are excluded from the conversation, right? They are the power. That is one of the exhibited skills and the roles and responsibilities that one has. So basically, women have no voice. Voice is a power. Voice is a bore, because when you don't say out loud something and fight for your rights or something, you are diminished, right? So this is something that I just want to say. It is there. Then another saying: when the hen crows, the world will fall apart. It will end. Now that is also a saying that a lot of people you can hear even today. When the cock crows, the world will end. The can eat, can thay, siar can thay, the can eat, why ka perthai. If the hen crows, then the world will be chaotic. It will just come to an end, right? So what does it imply? It implies that males, as a cock is always symbolic, even in religion, in the belief system of the Khasis, that it is a harbinger of something, or a leader, a front line, a front runner, so leadership roles. So if a woman taken a leadership role in that sense, and I'm cutting and I'm like making it a very short point on this, actually you can really develop this, then what happens is that the world become chaotic. It will end, right? It's almost like a post modern kind of a structural kind of thing, no? Way of looking at it. So the point is that these sayings are there among the Garos, I think, and if I'm wrong, correct me, please. It's like a goat has no teeth, so a woman has no brain, so to say. So there's that saying also. Even so, among Garos and Khasis and Giantess, there always is demeaning, humiliating kind of, I'm superior, I'm the man, kind of thing. You're just like, okay, woman. So nobody talks about economics, because even there also the role of the maternal uncle is there, no? So it's not like a threat, so to say, right? And talking about property, coming back to this, this one line over here, please remember that we are not talking just about ancestral property. In today's world, we are talking also about self-acquired property. So a lot of males, if they work hard, they don't have to depend on the ancestral property, right? So these are some of the things that I'm just kind of, throwing at you to ruminate and to, think about these things, okay? so that you understand the context of matrilineal society and how violence can happen, because it's there embedded in the language, it's embedded in the structure, it's embedded in the roles, expectations, the norms, the practices, and so on. Also in the cohesiveness of that, which kind of make the whole kinship group as very strong. But now, because of these factors of change, what is happening is that these forms of social control seems to be that we need new devices. We need to reinvent ourselves in that way. Like what holds together, and you have the law, so I wouldn't get into that, the legal aspect, right? And now, okay, just a little bit more. Yeah, the Mekha. I'm just giving you concepts, and I'm thinking aloud with you, because as I said, I wrote this paper, but then I'm just getting an extract. That's why I'm stumbling also over myself, right? But the role of the Mekha is the father's mother, the progenitor. He's a seed, he gives a seed to the woman. So he's very important because it comes from life, right? So the Mekha, why am I pointing out this concept also? Because sometimes the Mekha is supposed to be the one who blesses. The Mekha, that means the paternal kin in that way, father's mother, and the other mothers from his siblings. Now, sometimes in the commission, people come and then they say, we want to withdraw a case. And then when asked, they say that we don't want to lose the blessings of the Mekha, the father's mother, because they have threatened us. They said that if you go for, to Ying Sao, that means to the court, the commission, or anywhere, then we don't want to do anything with you, and we will not bless your child. We will not acknowledge that the child is ours. You get me? So these kind of beliefs that are there, they do influence the way that we behave, the way that we want to get to fulfill our rights, but we feel the right of the child is more important than my rights, right? So you want to make sure that that child has an identity, not only in the clan, but also in the patrikin, with the Mekha. You get me this? Right? Our identities are so important. So we need to have our fathers and our mothers, right? Their identities. So that's why these also influence the way that cases are, taken right to the end, or they are withdrawn somewhere. The resolution is not there. I hope you're getting the point, right? For those of you who are trying to follow me, okay? So this is important point to also consider. Why? Because these cultural kind of barriers, these expectations, or these, as I said, the cultural nuances are keeping away some of the things why justice is denied. We feel it's denied, but actually it's because there are impediments in that journey, in that that track of search for justice. So this is also a very important point for us to remember. And talking, I think somebody mentioned about having many husbands and wives. At one point of time, when I look at women, a lot of desertion is there in matrilineal societies, and sometimes I wonder. I said, why are these women, jumping from one relationship to the other? And the day that I recognize my own my own situation as a woman, if I were placed so, then I started to understand other women. See, having a husband is actually a social umbrella. There's less stigmatization. I've heard constantly women, they say, people are saying bad things about me, so I need to have the protection of a man. We still have the need to have the protection of a name of a man, or just a man having around the house and, as a protector. Another thing is that the finance, right? Many women, they are not so educated, so they economically they are deprived, or they suffer want. So because of that, they look for a person who will look after. Unlike the sugar daddies, of course, of today, but we are talking about real need over here. So the point is that the monetary kind of thing is still there, So that is one thing that we need to consider. The day that I realized that, I began to Oh, I didn't know. I had this in my mind, I had to forgive most women who I think, shouldn't be doing that. Because were I in that same position, would I do the same? So these are questions also that we need to introspect, you know. Otherwise, we are so judgmental. And we cannot bear without compassion, without that understanding, the knowing, right? We will never get anywhere. And we will, as budding, legal, um, you know, practitioners later on, I think this is a component that you should keep in mind. I always talk, even I think Finny and Saba got a lot of that, the compassion part. Because compassion, let me repeat this, which I've said once, I think here, is the highest faculty. And without that, we cannot dissect, we cannot understand, we cannot go into the depths of human nature, because that gives us wisdom, and it gives us a language because it comes from your heart, right? A language to negotiate these the dynamics of relationship, the complexity and the sadness, the grief that is there in every wronged and every failed relationship. That is something that we need to ponder. Okay, I'm taking a lot of time. I'm sorry about that. But then, no, I'm not sorry, because I just have to finish one thing there, because I'm not going to go with a whole lot of things. Maybe I should just end with a little bit of linking up the violence and all that. Yeah. Okay. I hope in my fumbling in my mind to explain this society of which I am part of, I hope that you have got a little bit of inkling. Have you? Right? I mean, you could read in a book and say this matrilineal society is like that. But I'm just trying to have a conversation with you, from my lived experience and from what I see. Are you getting some things?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hope so. Please reflect. And also, this is a tool also to investigate your own societies. It's not just statistics, it's just not numbers, it's not just the law, but the lived realities that is in the culture, which is so part of us, as we think. Let me give you maybe one last example regarding how embedded we are with, with the messaging that we get, and it becomes firmly entrenched in us, the socialization that becomes part of our lives, actually. When I was a facilitator teaching, I used to give this exercise, for both males and females, and I tell them, write your perception about women. Believe you me, it frightened the heck out of me. Because number one, some of them they wrote, like, that sugar and spice and everything nice, girls are so sweet, goddess and blah, 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 right? And then I said, shucks, these people are going to have the shock of their lives, because suddenly they'll discover that there are claws, that women have claws, right? On the other hand, there are these guys who write, she's a witch, she's a bitch, she's everything. She comes from our religious beliefs, like women are evil and they have to be controlled. You never know when they're going to get out. So in every culture, I think we do have that. The negative side of women. So I said that is even as bad, because on the other hand, those guys who think that sugar and spice, they'll take to drink, or they'll take something because they're so disillusioned when they get married. But on the other hand, the guys who are violent, they will suddenly what? Keep this woman under control. And the hand will always be raised in violence, right? So that means that a lot of young people, I dare you, if I dare to ask some of you also, you better deconstruct your thoughts. Because we say that we're educated, we say that we're ready to face the world, and bring justice. What's happening in our lives? What's happening in our minds? Please examine, reflect on your beliefs. And we have to be authentic. We have to be real. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves. Unless you can do that, you will never be able to make an impact. Believe you me. Right? Because change comes from understanding ourselves. And I challenge you to do that. Right? So that you don't just go there and just read it by rote, just the surface of your mind. We have to sink deeper. We have to engage in a deeper way. Then with ourselves first, with the beliefs and deconstruct it, keep it there. and leave only that which you think is wholesome for you, because you will get. I hope nobody's married as yet. You're in for some trouble if you are right now. But then, if you're not, then what should you bring to the marriage table? It's about you. Do you have the capacity to have relationships? And this is another thing that we find in the commission also. And I wish that there were more councils. We're talking about shelters, but we're talking also about these more society should engage with, having these premarital counseling. It is so needed. Is it needed, guys? Yes? Because, see, we know how to drive a car, but to negotiate relationships is a big thing, right? So do we know the skills? Do I come like, hey man, with a jacket and all that? Do we impress that way? Or a woman all pretty and sweet? But what about the reality? Negotiating, adjusting, understanding, right? Men and women. We have so much to give to each other, but we can't negotiate that as yet. Why? Because we are not taught sometimes. People like this taboo subject. We don't talk about our sexuality. We don't talk about our biology. We don't talk about, whatever. Many people are just thrust into a relationship. And that's why we have these early marriage kind of thing, these relationships, these teenage pregnancy, right? So to navigate that, we really need skills. As I said, we prepared for everything else except relationship. And that's why it's doomed from the beginning. I'm sorry to say. So be wise, okay? Please read up, do that. And it's okay. There's no competition between men. I think now, just the other day by mistake, I think I don't have time for that. But I just heard, men for women and women for men, we should engage in that. Just to understand, even though your patriarchal mindsets, and I'm using that also in the Khasi context, there's a macho, aggressive MCP kind of thing stand that we take, is there. We need to be sensitized, because men are no longer hunters. Women are also CEOs. They have developed that brain, that part of their brain. So men should be also in that nurturing. And it doesn't diminish your manhood, believe you me. So this is something that we need to engage in, this conversation with our own sexuality in order to understand the violence or whatever that goes on in our society. Are you still with me?
Yes,
Okay, we end. We'll just think. So I'll just, I think, read this up because I don't have time. You can ask me anything. So you were talking about here, in our society. Let me just point out, as I said, silence, the voice. We need to give voice to our women. And the only way we can get a voice is to have the content, and that is awareness and so on, right? So most women bear this with silence because they thought that this is it, the domestic violence in matrilineal societies I'm talking about. So they bear it in silence and so on. And the worst kind of pain I think that a woman feels more than physical pain, let me tell you, physical pain we can just deal with it, but the humiliation, the psychological kind of the little slights and humiliations that a woman has. People talk about, men would use that to hurt a woman, and she can forget the bruises, her physical bruises, but the bruise in her emotions and her spirit, what do you say? The bruises are deep. The cut is deep. If you talk about her womb, her inability to perform, or something else like that, if you talk about her vagina, if you talk about something that is there, that is the cruelest form, because you take away her worth, her sense of worth, her dignity, right? Right? Same for a man. One word which I wanted to say, but which ma'am also had already pointed out, respect. We have to respect our own inabilities also, right? Respect is something that I see is key to holding relationships, right? So that this is something. Then of course we already talked about the economic inequalities and so on, I won't go into that. And then lack of education, of course, because education is a freeing word, right? In more ways than one, because it also gives access to a woman to have, the ability. Many of the women, who come to the commission, those who can work, they said, we will no longer get into relationship. We can take care of our children. So it gives her a sense of like fulfillment and the ability to take care of her children is the most important thing. It's not just about she looking for a sexual partner. She's looking for a provider more than anything else. So this is something that we need to understand also. Then the last thing maybe I just wanted to say is the exposure to violence. See, the problem is today, and this is my last kind of round kind of thing. I hope never mind. We need to talk about this. Just one thing. What we're surrounded today, and I really feel for you guys also, for all the young people over here, including us, is that we're bombarded with violence everywhere. We're living in a culture of violence. Look at social media, the messaging that comes on, the words, advertisements, and look, the commodification, objectification of women also out there. Yeah, we see there's a nice woman out there, but why is she standing before a car? I mean, you're selling a car. Do you need a woman to be commodified and objectified over there? These are questions that we need to be in advertisements, in our movies, in social media, right? Everywhere there's loaded messaging of violence, like a capsule which releases itself into the lives of people. Do you get me? Right? Right? And so you feel that you can act it out. And if you're depthless, I use that word very often now, depthless. Forget about being educated. You might be wearing a tie, a suit and tie. But if thinking, that critical ability to think, education in its purest form has not reached into your own psyche, your own mind, your bodies, right? Then what's the point? And it's like, especially our westernized, the language from the West also, look at the 4-letter words, right? Of course, the expletives help us, but then I always tell my students, like, if you want to use expletives and those 4-letter words, please you can talk with your friends, but don't bring it out in the public domain where the children can hear it, where older people can hear it. Otherwise, I'm going to bring a spray from the, like, what do they call, septic tanks spray, or whatever they call them, whatever. The point is this. The point is that, it's contagious. Violence is contagious. I challenge you to draw boundaries for yourself. Have these psychological boundaries. These mental kind of thing, the will and commitment that I say no. I say no. Whether it's to violence and women and men, you have your own, lines where you identify as a free spirit who can make decisions for yourself. And once you begin to do that, you can begin to change the world. So on that note, there's a whole lot of things. You don't want to get mental issues and so on, because the whole world is doing that. I'm telling you, this culture of violence is spewing like shit into our minds, in a way. And because of that, we are prone to doing things that are beyond our control. We are influenced by that. So there should be a boundary in our own minds to say, no, that's enough. So I dare you to start questioning, to start going deeper, not just to pass an exams. If you haven't passed the exam, which is yourself, and asking yourself, what purpose? Why are you here? Are you here to earn some money later on? Are you here to make a difference? Are you here to find out the most important questions? Who am I? What is truth? And the pursuit of truth and justice. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, respected Chairperson Ma'am, for the insightful discussion, for dwelling into matrilineal, especially within our Meghalaya, a concept that is crucial for correct and better understanding, and for talking about the characteristics of human beings, of society as a whole, and how they play a role in domestic violence and in the pursuit of justice. Thank you so much once again for each and every single one of our panelists, for our speakers, for your truly insightful speeches and discussions. Now we will open the floor for a short question and answer round, to an opportunity for us participants to engage directly with our speakers and seek clarifications and knowledge. So if there are any questions, please raise your hand. The volunteers will come and give the mic.
there is no violence. I'm actually connected to the roots. Yes. That's what I learned sitting from here.
There's a button.
Cannot be accepted.
It's fine. Like I can speak. Yeah.
Just a second.
Hello. Good afternoon, one and all present here. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity. So, as we were discussing about this matrilineal, like domestic violence in matrilineal context, in Meghalaya, we are very proud of this matrilineal system, and we should be. But as like we were discussing, one thing was striking my mind that inheritance does not mean that we are safe from violence. It does not give the women the right to stay safe or like against to stay safe against the violence. So as law students, like what we can do is we can create the main factor that I saw was missing was awareness. As all the panelists have mentioned the word awareness. So as we have researched, as the panelists have also researched, and we have also researched something or the other about this thing. So the main fact that was missing, the main factor, like we are privileged enough as law students or as students from prestigious institutes, we are privileged enough to discuss these things. But like in a rural village in, let's say, in West Jaintia Hills or West Khasi Hills, they are not getting that benefit. So as law students or like connected with law, we can create awareness programs with the local authorities like the Darbar Shnongs or the Seng So we can connect with them and we can create awareness. In that way, like it makes a difference. A slight difference would also like in the later context, it will boost the voices of women as well, and even it will lead to uh, like the knowledge. Definitely awareness is needed. As like we are sitting here, we were discussing everything, then only we got aware that no, these problems are happening. As sir has mentioned that according to official data, there were 0 cases in Meghalaya, but that does not mean that there is no violence in Meghalaya. Somewhere or the other, someone is facing violence, and that to domestic violence. But since they are not aware, they do not speak. So, as law students, I think we should take initiative, or we should, arrange programs like this.
I know where you're going. I think I'll just cut short if I'm right. See, Malsa and Nalsa has a lot of funding.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and there's also a public prosecutor for every district. You're
Yeah.
aware of this? The main public prosecutor. You can write to them for every district. They will organize legal aid programs with your colleges in that district. They'll even arrange for transportation and buses. Yeah, correct. And it's banned. Thank you, sir. And it is mandated by the Bar Council. Thank you, sir, for that.
Okay, ma'am.
Where you can write, you saying, I am free. I want to go with you. You want to be a part of this. Of course, but you have to seek permission from your faculty members also before doing. But your faculty members can write directly to Nalsa, Malsa, district
Bar
public
council.
prosecutor, even to the district judge of that place. Write to them and say we are available on any of the dates that you fix, because funding is there. There's funding which is separately being kept for legal awareness.
Okay, ma'am.
To just add on to this, last month, no, Shubhra sir? So we had an awareness program on POXO in the Garo Hills. Okay, so we were there and it was organized by NLU Meghalaya's Legal Aid Society. So for domestic violence also we can do that.
Yeah.
East Garo Hills, right. Number one. Number two, how many of you have heard about witch hunting? Okay. It is directly related to the property rights of a woman. Because a woman, has some property left when all other members of the family has passed away. She is the sole person who's living and owning property. That is why she is hunted as a witch, so that the property can be grabbed. So this notion that ownership of property or possession of property is directly related to not perpetuating violence or not facing violence is entirely false.
Do we have any other question?
Is that it? Is that it?
Ma'am, I'll have one question. As in, you just mentioned while in your speech that when there's a violence, then that should not be justified in any case. The person do not have a right to hold back. They should be set free. But then within our statute itself, there's this provision of restitution of conjugal rights. So don't you think that that itself is very arbitrary and that gives, so as an practicing advocate, and I have my professor who has actually taught us about it. So can you give us insight like how can that?
You also say, huh? I know you have, yeah, you have a lot to say about this.
Your perspective.
Sure, ma'am.
Of course, I have very little to say about this, and you'll have more to say on it. I think ma'am also will have a lot to say on it. See, if somebody, why do they ask for special permission, okay, on conjugal rights, right? Especially in a divorce proceeding or a maintenance proceeding, to stay the proceeding. Okay, it's a strategy. Of course, I mean, I can understand if a prisoner is asking for it, conjugal rights, right? I can understand that because you can have relationships when you're in prison and you ask for something like that. But I think it's a strategy that is misused by a lot of people. I mean, most of the laws are misused by a lot of people, but then would that deter us from filing? There are genuine cases also, right? You have something to say on this? I think you have something more nice.
We are talking about rights, laws, everything. But what are all these things? See, one of the major challenges is that the rights, the laws which we create for women, men are not aware about it. Now, whether, especially today's topic, domestic violence, whether men are aware that from section 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, these are the compliances which he may have to do if he's thinking of taking situations to some other side. That is the first thing. So, thinking from what he was saying, that definitely law schools with the legal aid society can organize this kind of programs. The skit is still striking me that it depicted what should not be done. Like similarly, sexual harassment at workplace. Whether the person is aware that what are the acts which may amount to sexual harassment. So first it is the knowing that what we should not do. Now coming back to his question, restitution of conjugal rights. See, law is nothing but common sense. What That's what I understand. Why do we need an application in the court and the court to tell us that we need to start living together? If one wishes to live together, one can live. It's what ma'am correctly said, it's a strategy to be in the proceeding, not in the relationship. So why do we need such kind of a things? So it's definitely that the law will always be there, but it is also that how do you want to make the law work? 498A, any situation turns little sour. The husband and the wife are not staying together for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Recently, 10 days back, one situation, 6 years, they are not staying together. Suddenly, one 498A has been filed. Now the person has to run to the court to get bail, etc. Other things. Now, why do we need, whether we are seeking for a separation which we are not able to tell, so we are taking help of 498A. Over criminalization of civil acts. We all know that 497 adultery is no more a criminal offense. Supreme Court has said there is nothing which the criminal law can do inside the bedroom of two consenting adults. Similarly, the participation of men in the implementation of human rights is very important. There was a paper which I used to teach I used to say that what are these men right, women right? Rights are rights. Thank you if there is anything.
I'll just end with this. Right to sex is a fundamental right. Why? So I'll just reframe the question and say that right to bodily autonomy.
Yes, that's a fundamental right, which has been stated in case Puttaswamy case. The court have said that that is an right to privacy that comes under the ambit, and then yes, it's a fundamental right of an individual.
Correct. That is body autonomy. But right to sex? Different? If you're married, you have a right to sex.
No, then as we spoke about marital rape, that the provisions cover, so that right is not there.
He's got his consent. Because everything is based on consent. Two people need to consent. It cannot be one-sided. So, simple thing, my human rights may not be your human rights. What is human rights? Equal for everyone. Right to water is human rights. Right to drinking water is human rights. But right to the well is not human rights. Simple?
Yes, ma'am.
So, right to sex is a personal right. Okay? Good question.
Seeing the constraint of time, will not be able to accommodate any further questions. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity of inviting us. I'm Dr. M. Rangat I'm the faculty from the School of Social Work, Martin Luther Christian University. Dear panelists, with due respect and permission, the conversation on gender-based violence or DV or IPV, can it be shift more into inclusivity, where we also acknowledge gender dynamics? So this question stems from the recent cases which happens to men as well, okay? So the very famous video which became viral of the Bangalore techie, if you remember, where he openly shared his experience of DV before he committed suicide. And also of the recent case which happens in Meghalaya, the Raghavanshi case, which has become viral, of men also being the victim of domestic violence. So I go back to the question, or not the question, but then the comment that Ma'am Olivia made earlier. She was talking about even men can report. But how much guarantee can we give to the men that the police and other authority will listen to them? Because at the end, men will be blamed. So I'm not just making a mere speculation here. I just want to reflect back to the research which I have conducted in the year 2022-23. And it is very much in contrast to the study that you've conducted. My respondents are the tribal Khasi men, and I was looking at the IPV. Okay, so surprisingly, the study I conducted in East Khasi Hills district, I went to 8 villages where I adopted the PPS, the probability proportionate sampling, collecting all these samples from the 8 villages. Just want to share that study with you. So I interviewed around 405 men in the process of understanding the prevalence and also the experiences of men. Because most of these men, they feel vulnerable in a matrilineal society like ours, where all that lineage and all that comes into the context. I'm not being biased here, being a man and conducting a study about men, but I think we cannot also deny the fact that even men or any other gender can also face violence. I just want to share the study that around 22% of the men in East Khasi Hills district, they experience IPV. And 66% of them face violence at the hands of their partner or their wife. So these respondents are both the married and those who are in a relationship, since you were talking about cohabitation and intimate and all that. So these are the men who says that 66% are their wife or their partner. So we cannot deny the fact that women can also be violent in different contexts.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So I just want to share you this study with you also, that we are also aware that even men do face violence, but where do they go? How do we address the issue of non-reporting? Because they become the silent victim as well. You know, from all these 405 men that I have met. Okay, yeah.
So, sir, absolutely correctly, you have pointed out that these situations, the new laws where we thought or we have said they use the word victim sparingly. Now, whether the victim is inclusive of all the genders, because the new law have taken into consideration transgender is a gender right now, but whether we are all protected within the ambit of the so-called law is the present question of the hour. So I'll start from a different aspect, the definition of rape. We are all aware 2013 we said that we have to change the definition of rape, but the definition of rape, as you are all aware, is it that only the man can commit those acts? No, correct? Any gender can commit the acts which the definition says, but the things, the definition starts with a man. So that is the where the law could have changed, it did not. Then 354A, B, C, D. Now your 74, 75, 76, 77, sexual harassment. Sexual harassment cannot still be committed, or the victim cannot be the man. Then we have intent to disrobe. Here also, what we did, we have said that the man cannot be the victim. It can be committed by anyone, but this man still cannot be the victim. Same goes for voyeurism and stalking. So criminal law have changed episodically, correct? Any situations from Tukaram to Nirbhaya to Unnao, we have this Arjikor. So now we are saying death is the only solution. So coming back to sir's question, that Supreme Court 15 days back, which I can say and remind, that whether 498A is filed to disturb the relationship, which one cannot say that I do not want to stay with you, is that it? So court have said that 2 months there is nothing doing. You observe whether the things which she wants back or not. But definitely the man can file for the offences regarding wrongful restraint. We have hurt. We have defamation. These are the small provisions only presently which men can exercise. And definitely I do not feel restitution of conjugal right is an solution within the ambit of marriage. Why do you want to force the other gender to come and stay? Why? There is no requirement of that. I think all of us are agreeing on that same point, and all of you, that all can maintain their own self. There is no, it's about companionship, it's not about force. So definitely the law presently lacks, whereas if we think about US and others, they have included that in sexual harassment, the definition, just we see the definitions, whether it can be committed by only one gender, no. But the law said a man. The starting word of the word says a man. So definitely it is disturbing, the videos, the news which we are seeing in the social media, and there is little recourse which we definitely have. But I do not know when the laws can further be amended. We have just got the new laws, and and this any kind of amendment would disturb the present new laws. I think man would continue.
Of course, there's a lot to say on that, and debates have been going on. In fact, even in the arguments that we had when we had this marital rape arguments in the Delhi High Court, and then of course Supreme Court refused to take it up till late. It doesn't even want to touch it. There, of course, there's also the opinion of our legislator on how they feel about the new laws, like you said, right? But, however, having said all of that and understanding all of that jargon, what should stop you from filing cases? Nothing. You should come forward. I think men should come forward. If they do feel that there is a domestic violence case, then yes, come forward. I mean, it's not that the moment you file or a woman file that she'll get justice. I mean, law has to take its course. It has to hear both sides. Evidence has to take place. So I think you should. You should. Under the Domestic Violence Act also, you should. I mean, if you feel that, yes, this is too much. I mean, crime can be committed by anybody. Can you say who can commit a crime? When will they commit a crime? How will they commit a crime? I mean, of course, I shouldn't say this, and this should be off the record when it comes to Raghuvanchi's death or anybody. You think I feel that it was all at the spur of the moment that, this anger, this vengeance, this negligence, this, I don't know, boil up, whatever pent up to this moment. So if that is the case, should you wait for such a grievous thing to happen to you? I don't think so. I think if the moment you know that this is wrong, speak up. The moment you know that it's wrong, address it. And if you wait for it to get bad, then this is where we are today.
I think I've discussed this with most of these male about the reporting. They were not aware. Maybe the legal awareness can come into the picture here, where such an awareness to men also should be given, where they can also report. Because most of the men said they said that there is no law for men. Like the general understanding is that they feel that there is no law for the men. So I feel maybe the
If a man files a domestic violence case, I don't think any judge will throw it out. They will actually wait for the investigation officer. They will do something about it.
maybe some guidance, especially the people coming from the very remote area. So yeah.
But there's a lot has to be done in that strata of society. The reason being is because I think their concept is a little bit violent and
women as victims of crime.
Women as victims.
Women as
So it's also exposure of looking at the wrong thing, maybe the wrong internet vibe, right? So it's like we all become internet advocates and internet doctors and all that. So I think we should, you're right, awareness, but awareness is not it is the beginning, it's not the means. Just being aware is not enough. It's about doing something.
I just want to bring out one component, and this is based on a real case. It's a non-tribal male. This is very important for us in today's time, especially after the pandemic, and that is to take the mental health aspect. This component is important, as I said, because in this particular case, there was this woman, she was bipolar. The man married her without knowing. So check the health index. Anyway, HIV included. So then she manifested afterwards, when they were fighting for the kids, and she went to the extent to kind of, you wanted custody of the child and all that. She put out a viral video, showing, asking the child to show which parts of the body the father had raped and all that, and touched her and all that. It was that bad. But she was so violent, even when she had since gone to her home state, but the husband is still here. And what I hope he wouldn't mind if I say this, so you wouldn't know. The thing is that he showed me, he really battered, she really battered him. He didn't know she was so violent, he was really scared. So the house, his body, everything. And then to top it all, she even took, I think, kerosene or some chemical, in front of the police, and then blamed him. Of course, he was taken to Mimhams and so on. But what I'm trying to say is that this violent thing is that we don't know, but it is it manifests itself because of certain mental health issues. And women are very insecure also as men. Okay, so there's something to keep in mind. That's why violence can be committed by a woman. You have to be careful about that. And just a word for, that is something. And that mental health component. regarding, I think we should have a conversation elsewhere, of course, because there was a point of time when I didn't care any hang about whether it's matrilineal, patrilineal. I'm not that type of person. But then I cared about what happened, whichever gender suffers. That's my stand. Okay, so I joined the SRT. You are aware of that, the Sengkong Rempai Thamai. It's an organization which wants to build a new hearth. That means pro patrilineal. I joined not because I have an ideological kind of desire to change whatever, but I want to listen, to understand. So by default, I went to the first meeting and became the vice president. At the same time, I was the secretary of a women's organization. So there was one time when from the women's side, they say, hey, Kong Yamon, you speak for us. And then from the men, Kong Yamon, you speak for that. No? And I love it, that cheek and tongue kind of thing. I love the fact that we're having any kind of debate. And the thing is to objectively put yourself in that, not feel that I'm a man, I'm a woman. But when you get to that, then you can objectively get somewhere. That is actually what your purpose as an academic, in the academic field, one has to be as objective as possible. Thank you. We'll get back to you.
Just to add two sentences, like I keep telling this in the class also, I think I've told them many times, it was never man versus woman. It was a system very strategically formulated by patriarchy. So patriarchy was never actually, it's strategized. And the people who are still invoking patriarchy are the ones who are also having these powerful positions. So we have to break that cycle. Whoever perpetuates violence, violence also comes from survival mode. So that person is living in a survival mode. He or she is not aligned with his or her true self anymore. So I think we have to look into the root causes of intersectionality, psychology, sociology. We cannot understand law in silo.
Food for thought, okay? I just asked you a question. The family that has a child, daughter, and a child, son, okay? Now, if your daughter gets married, you will not give dowry, correct? But if your son gets married, you will take dowry? Agreed? I'll say it again. If you have a daughter, you will not pay dowry because dowry is a crime, correct? But if you have a son, you will ask dowry because it's tradition, correct? No, everybody will say no, naturally, but you still do it, na? Gifting is what? Tradition, na? But gifting is what? What will you give? Car, house, money. What is gifting? So just an example, just food for thought. So the same way it works for gender sensitivity. If it's a girl child, then what? If it's a boy child, then what? What role do they play?
A heartfelt thank you to all the esteemed speakers for their willingness to address all the questions posed by the audience. Your candid and insightful responses have truly made the session more successful. As we draw this seminar to a close, it's worth reflecting that why we are here today. We have just celebrated our nation's 79th Independence Day, a day that symbolizes the freedom from colonial rule. Yet, as our discussion today have highlighted, true freedom remains ongoing struggles for many. The persistence of issues like domestic violence, even within a society with a proud tradition like matrilineality system of Meghalaya, shows that the social and gender-based inequalities are chains we still must break. On that reflecting note, I must like to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who have made this seminar possible. It was my honor to now invite Dr. Umeshwari Dakar ma'am to kindly deliver the valedictory speech on behalf of National Law University Meghalaya.
Thank you, Rishi. So I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I
You're
audible,
yes, ma'am.
Vishnu?
You're
Yes.
audible. Yeah.
So thank you so much, and it was intense, session I would say, and I really missed the opportunity of being there and share my thought, my view, my opinions, and what Doctor, sorry, I forgot your name, from Martin Luther, sir. So you have beautifully conducted the research, and in fact, that was also one aspect which we always think when we were conducting this particular research. And one interesting part, which I always say with my students, is crime is a crime, irrespective of any facts that you are of what religion, you are of what gender, male or female or religion, Hindu or Muslim. Crime is a crime. It can happen anywhere, irrespective of the fact we are in a matrilineal society or a patrilineal society. Crime can happen. The fact is understood that there was a certain time where the ratio of crime relating to domestic violence were highly with the woman. Keeping that in mind, the parliament has come with the very law of domestic act to protect the interests of a woman. But nonetheless, we are living in the society now at present where we can see that the amount of domestic violence even in the men is at rise. So it's a very interesting session. I really miss you all. And as a PI of this particular project, I want to actually extend a thanks, to all the team who have, make this possible. So as we come to this close of this project and this wonderful journey, I must say, I stand with a heart full of gratitude. Every milestone we have reached is not an outcome of an individual effort, not my alone, but it is the result of a collective hard work, encouragement, and a true collaboration. So at the very onset, I would like to express a deepest thank to Dr. Ankita, co-PI. Lovingly, I used to call her Anku. So your constant support, guidance, insightful input, and unwavering support have been, a source of strength throughout this project. So Anku, without your presence and direction, this work would not have been, shaped. This project would not have been shaped the way it is. So thank you so much, Anku. And my sincere gratitude also goes to Dr. Surja Kanta. Also, I used to call him Surjada. So thank you so much, sir. Your constructive feedback, and valuable suggestion enrich this particular project and research, and it gives a deep, clarity what it was needed for this particular project. So thank you so much. And I feel especially proud and acknowledge the remarkable contribution of some students who are a part of this project. So to name Bethelda, she was supposed to be here. So Bethelda, you have been tirelessly working, constantly working on this particular project. Thank you so much. Jyoti, Shikha, and Shriyansh, both of you, you brought a fresh perspective. Your energy and your commitment to this project was seriously, thank you so much for your dedication. And you make this, you shape this project actually. So thank you so much. And I'm equally thankful to Latria and Sukimari also, who was the field researcher, and they have been on field collecting data. And thank you so much for that smoothly conducting on the field and getting us the data which we were able to analyze and present. So beyond this particular research itself, I must take a moment to the entire team to, to conduct this seminar. In my absentia, you drive this, the team of legal aid, like Afiba Fordor, all of you, in fact, I could not name each one of you, Fanny, Rishi, all of you. So in my absentia, you drive this seminar. So thank you so much. And you literally make me feel proud, and I really want to celebrate this day. So thank you so much to all the students. And yes, this project and this seminar is not just mine, and it is about all of us together. So without each one of you, this journey would not have been, possible. It would have been incomplete. So as we close this chapter, I carry with my profound sense of pride and gratitude for what we have accomplished today. Thank you, each one of you, for making this possible. Thank you. Kublai.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruma. Uh, and also, I would like to extend my gratitude that you gave us a chance to be a part of this project in a way of a seminar. Now, as with that, we approach the official end of our seminar. I would like to invite Api Barkador, the president of Legal Aid Society, National Law University, Meghalaya, to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of National Law University, Meghalaya.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing team here at National Law University, Meghalaya. So, first and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who was unable to be here today due to unforeseen circumstances. However, because of his support, encouragement, and his guidance, this event was made possible. So, I also wish to extend our deepest appreciation to our esteemed guests, speakers who have enriched today's event with their insights and expertise. So, Srimati Yamon's AM Chairperson of the State Women's Commission, for her valuable perspectives and for lending her voice to issues of deep social importance. Srimati Olivia Bang, an accomplished advocate whose practice extends from the High Court of Meghalaya to the Supreme Court of India, for her practical wisdom and inspiring words. So, also Dr. Surja Kanta Baladhikari, Assistant Professor of WBN UJS, for his scholarly contributions and thought provoking analysis. And also, lastly, Dr. Ankita Chakraborty, assistant professor at St. Xavier's University and co-principal investigator, for her illuminating perspectives and engaging reflections. We are also privileged by the gracious presence of Ms. Badabyang Dakar and Dr. Isha Bihari, our faculty, who we thank them sincerely for joining us today, although they've left. But since they're here, they've given us their support, and we're thankful for that. Also, I would like to extend a heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Umeshwari Dakhar, the main organizer of this event and principal investigator of the project. Ma'am, your vision and dedication have been the driving force behind today's success. Thank you so much for that. And also, I'd still like to extend a special word of thanks to all the participants from various schools and their representatives, whose enthusiastic involvement has truly brought life and meaning to this event. I would also like to express our gratitude to the volunteers of NLU MEG, whose tireless efforts behind the scenes ensure the smooth running of today's program. We also extend thanks to the administrative and IT staff, as well as the catering team, for the seamless support without which this event would not have been possible. Finally, to each and every one of you present here today, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your participation. May each one of you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you so much, Afi, for the vote of thanks. Now, I'll request to the social media team to kindly take a photo op, and I'll request the attendees to kindly come forward so that we can have your presence, a proper picture altogether. Yeah. I request to not leave the hall right now. Please wait. There are certain other announcements as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do send me the pictures.
I have one. Four of us.
I'll request all the attendees to kindly settle in your respective places where you were settled. And for the dignitaries, we have arranged lunch for you in the conference hall. I request the respective volunteers to kindly guide the dignitaries to the conference hall and the faculty representatives as well. Also, I'll request first the dignitaries to move out of the hall. Then after